So today, we're going to dive into an ancient poem that asks a question you've probably asked yourself. Staring up at the vastness of the cosmos, do I even matter? And the answer it comes up with? Well, it's a paradox that's been around for 3,000 years. You know the feeling, right? You look up at that endless, star-dusted darkness, and all of a sudden, your own significance just feels tiny. You might think this is a totally modern feeling, something we get from seeing those wild images from deep space telescopes. But it's not new at all. In fact, one of the most powerful expressions of this cosmic vertigo comes from an ancient Hebrew hymn that we now call Psalm 8. It asks the very same question we do, but the answer it finds is anything but small. All right, section 1, a stargazer's timeless question. To really get why the Psalm's answer is so mind-blowing, we first have to put ourselves in the shoes of the person asking it and try to see the world he saw when he looked up. So, tradition tells us the author was King David. But you have to remember, before he was a king living in a palace, he was a shepherd out in the wilderness. Just try to picture him, out there in the Judean hills, 0 city lights, looking up at a sky so intensely clear it must have felt three-dimensional. It's from that exact perspective, all alone under an absolute ocean of stars, that this poem is born. Okay, on to section 2, the shepherd king's radical worldview. From that lonely shepherd's viewpoint, David proposed a way of seeing the world that was, and I mean this, completely revolutionary for its time. See, for the big, powerful empires surrounding Israel back then, we're talking places like Egypt and Mesopotamia, the sun, the moon, and the stars weren't just objects, they were gods. And humanity's job in all this? Well, according to their creation stories, we were basically created to be the slaves of the gods, doing all their cosmic grunt work. But Psalm 8 just flips that entire worldview on its head. This chart really lays it out. The stars aren't gods to be worshipped. They're just the delicate work of God's fingers. Humans aren't cosmic slaves. We're viceregents, crowned with honor and given this sacred trust. And get this divine care wasn't just for the king or the priests. It was for every single human. This was a radical democratization of dignity, absolutely unheard of. So that brings us to section 3, humanity's paradoxical answer. After taking in the sheer scale of the cosmos, the Psalms poses its central question, and the answer it gives is a deeply profound paradox about where we fit in. And here it is. This is the pivot point for the whole poem. When you're faced with all this cosmic grandeur, what is this fragile, fleeting thing called a human being that the creator of the entire universe would even bother to remember you or care for you? Now, the psalmist doesn't pull any punches about our weakness. The specific Hebrew word used here for man is enosh, and that word doesn't just mean human. It specifically implies mortality, frailty, weakness, and vulnerability. So the psalmist is starting by fully admitting, yep, I get it, we're cosmically insignificant. And yet, in the very next line, the psalm makes this absolutely astonishing claim. This frail, vulnerable creature, this enosh, has been placed just a little lower than the divine. And there's the ultimate tension, right? We are fragile, and yet we are exalted. So much of this incredible tension actually hinges on how you translate one single Hebrew word, Elohim. Older translations often go with angels, but more literal modern translations will say God. Now, just stop and think about that difference for a second. Are we a little lower than angels? Or are we just a step down from God himself, like a direct reflection of the divine? The original Hebrew kind of holds all that meaning at once. And the paradox just keeps going. In one of the most mysterious lines in the whole psalm, it claims that God establishes his strength, a stronghold against his enemies, not with armies, but from the mouths of babies and infants. There it is again, ultimate power being demonstrated through what looks like ultimate weakness. So, let's move on to section 4, a legacy across millennia. This incredibly powerful set of ideas didn't just stay put in the 10th century BC. No way. This psalm went on an unbelievable journey through human history. This timeline really gives you a sense of it. It starts around 1000 BC as a shepherd's song. 1,000 years later, it becomes a key text for the New Testament writers. Fast forward another millennium and a half, and it's inspiring the great astronomer Johannes Kepler, who saw his star charting as just revealing God's glory. And then finally, in 1969, its words literally leave the planet, carried to the surface of the moon by the Apollo 11 crew. Talk about an idea with staying power.
You see, for those early Christian writers, this psalm was way more than just a beautiful poem. They saw it as a prophecy. For them, Jesus was the ultimate Son of Man. He was the one who perfectly embodied that paradox of weakness and glory, and the one who finally fulfilled humanity's divine destiny through his own life, death, and resurrection. And then you get this incredible moment, almost 3,000 years after it was written. Astronaut Buzz Aldrin is flying back from the moon. He's looking at our tiny blue planet hanging in the blackness, and what comes to his mind? The words of Psalm 8, the ancient shepherd and the modern astronaut asking the exact same question across the ages. It's just amazing. All right, our final section, our place in the cosmos. So let's bring it all home. What does this ancient poem really have to say to us, right here, right now, about our place in this vast universe?
At the end of the day, the answer the psalm gives us is the paradox itself. It says, yes, we are Enosh. We are cosmic dust. We're frail. We're temporary. But at the exact same time, we are crowned with glory and honor, and we're tasked with this profound purpose. The psalmist insists that you can't have one without the other. Both are true.
So what is that purpose? It's not about exploitation, it's about stewardship. This dominion it talks about is a sacred responsibility to care for creation. And it covers the whole shebang, from our domesticated sheep and oxen to the wild beasts of the field, the birds of the air, and even the fish in the deepest, most remote paths of the seas. Our job is to act as the Creator's caring representatives on Earth. You know, there was this theologian back in the 2nd century, a guy named Irenaeus, who I think just perfectly captured the heart of this psalm. He said, "The glory of God is man fully alive." Our real significance, our glory, isn't something we just invent for ourselves. It's found when we reflect the care and purpose of the one who made us, by truly living into our role as caretakers.
Which leaves us with a huge question for today, doesn't it? As we keep exploring our world, and even as we reach for the stars, what does it actually mean for us, right now, to be stewards of all things? How do we live with our cosmic smallness and our great responsibility at the same time? That is the enduring and, I think, beautiful paradox of Psalm 8.